What's going on, guys? For the first time in a long time, Super Insane 18 here, and today we are going to be bringing you a post-terminal revenge updated Spright deck profile. Now, this was a deck profile that I was working on because I had already planned on bringing it to you guys, and to my surprise, over this last weekend, it did just win one of the World Championship qualifiers, awarding somebody their invite to Worlds with Spright in this supposed Tier 0 Snake Eye format, which is incredible, and it's all because of a couple of cards that we received in Terminal Revenge. So we're going to show you guys the build as well as a combo at the end, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's go ahead and jump on in. To start off the profile, of course, we are going to have 3 copies of the main sprites, which are, of course, Spright Blue, and our 3 copies of Spright Jet. These are just the best ones to have because they are your searchers for the deck. And then we are playing a little bit of a weird ratio for the remaining Spright monsters. We have 1 copy of Spright Red, 1 copy of Spright Carrot, and then 1 copy of Spright Pixies. Now, this does differ from the winning list a little bit, but I do have my reasons for it. First and foremost, additionally having another name means that you can just extend further if your opponent has any kind of interruptions or hand traps, because these Spright names are once per turn to summon themselves. So by having an additional name that is just an additional summon, but not just that, of course, Spright monsters are very small attacking monsters, so the ability to use Spright Pixie's effect in hand to pump up your attack as well, it can be incredibly crucial to winning the game. What you can do is you could replace this with a second Carrot or a Red, because additional negates are never bad. I just really like the utility that Pixies has to offer. Then, because of the new cards that we got in Terminal's Revenge, we are back on our copies of Swap Frog, and that is because we are able to make Toad again very quickly and very efficiently. And of course, that is all thanks to the 1 copy of Mirror Mage of the Ice Barrier. So we will show you guys the combo, but to kind of simplify it a little bit right now, this is a level 2 Aqua, meaning that we can send it from the deck with Swap Frog, and then when it's sent to the graveyard, it searches for a spell that reborns it, which means we can just go ahead and flat out overlay into our Totally Awesome using a Mirror Mage and the Swap Frog. We are, of course, still on the Nimble package with our 3 copies of Nimble Beaver and our 2 copies of Nimble Angler. This is just mandatory. Beaver is a phenomenal extender, and Angler is, of course, what you are going to send off of your Sprint for additional extension as well. But not just that, Angler does have a lot of extra utility because you can send it from your hand to summon Swap Frog, which will then get its effect as well, and there's just so many different combos that you can do. We are still on the Melfi package with the 1 copy of Caddy and the 1 copy of Penny. This allows you to end your board with essentially 3 Omni Negates, which we will show you in the combo again. So yeah, just really, really strong, and you might think that some of these cards are bricks, but don't forget that all of these cards that you might think are bricky are in and of themselves level 2 monsters, meaning that in an absolute worst case scenario, you are able to just normal summon it, special summon any of your Spright monsters, and pretty much any 2 monsters that you can put on field equate to full combo. Next up, we have some hand traps. Of course, we are on Ash Blossom. This is a little bit scary given that Hida is able to reborn this, but it's still just the most generic and most well-used hand trap, followed up by Effect Veiler, which is my personal pick for the best hand trap of the format. Well, kind of best. I think it's tied with Infinite Impermanence because Effect Negation is so unbelievably crucial into Snake Eye. But that is going to do it for the monsters. Onto the spells. Of course, we have our 3 copies of Spright Starter. We got this back at 3 a couple of ban lists ago, so the consistency of the deck has just overall skyrocketed. And then we have, of course, our 1 copy of Spright Smashers. This is just really good non-targeted removal, which isn't a monster effect as well, so you'll be able to get rid of those pesky floodgates like Skill Drain that people are playing. And then we also have 1 copy of the Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier. This is the spell that I mentioned that is able to reborn the Mirror Mage. Anytime that Mirror Mage is sent to the graveyard, you can add an Ice Barrier spell. You go ahead, you add the Freezing Chains, activate the Freezing Chains, and it allows you to reborn the Mirror Mage. Finishing up the spells, we have 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. As I mentioned with the Effect Veiler, we do have a format where Effect Negation is absolutely crucial, and this is non-targeted Effect Negation at that, which is even better. And even better for this deck, you can use it to discard something like your Nimble Angler, which is also just going to extend your board. And finally, we have the 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. I think that this card is just absolutely mandatory in this format, so definitely want to play that. that. And for the traps, we only have 4 of them. Of course, we have our Spright double cross. This is how we're able to use 3 Omni negates, because this can reborn either our Toad or our Herald, so whichever one we end up going into. Spoiler, we usually make both. We'll be able to reborn it and get an additional negate. And then finally, we have our 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, making a main deck of 40 cards. Let's show you guys the extra. Now, for the extra deck, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I did have a little bit of a hard time filling up some spaces, so there are quite a few flex spots here, and we will go over that as we show you, but a lot of it is pretty self-explanatory and pretty obvious for a typical Spright deck. Of course, we have our 2 copies of Gigantic Spright. This is just super important for the Spright strategy. Not just that, it also locks your opponent out of Nibiruing you, because both players can only summon level, rank, or link 2s. So if you do this super early, those Nibirus that your opponent has are just completely useless. Of course, we have our 1 copy of Totally Awesome. This is now made with the Swap Frog and the Mirror Mage, and we can make it very, very quickly in the combo. We also have the 1 copy of the Melfi of the Forest. This is, of course, how you want to bridge into your Melfi lines. That's pretty much all that it does. And then we have our 1 copy of Onibimaru Soul Sweeper. I think this is just an incredible rank 2 to play for the Spright deck, being able to just remove threats that you might not otherwise be able to remove. Then we have our first flex spot in E Pearly Plump. This is mostly a Zeus card, because you can make a 6 material Zeus by overlaying 2 2s into the Plump, sucking up 2 Speller Traps from the graveyard, then Downard and Zeus. But our other Zeus card is going to be the Ninja Mosquito. This is the safer way to make a Zeus, because you can just swing for no consequences, and then slap, of course, the Downard and the Zeus right on top of it. Then we do have the Link Monsters, which will be our 1 copy of Sprind. Sprind is just mandatory. It's what you want to send with, or what you want to send the Angler off of. We have, of course, our IP and our Little Knight. These are just incredibly good utility cards. You can end your board on these instead of one of your Omni Negates if you want more of a varied interruption field. Then, of course, we have our 1 Dark and our 1 Phoenix. Dark is just really good because of the format we're in. You'll be able to reborn something like your opponent's Dark Witch and just get more damage on the board, which is something I mentioned we struggle with a little bit, which is why we run the Pixies. And the Phoenix is the other flex spot, because honestly, just removal is really good. And the final card of the extra deck is going to be the Herald of Arclight. This is not only an Omni Negate, but it also is a pseudo macro Cosmo. Any card sent from the deck or hand to the graveyard would be banished instead, as long as this remains face up on the field, so it's just an incredibly powerful card. But that's going to do it for the list. Let's show you guys the combo. And for that much awaited combo section of the video, we are going to show you what you can do with a copy of Swap Frog and a copy of Spright Blue. Now, this deck has a ton of combos and a ton of variations. Even this particular combo has 4 or 5 different ways that you can make the end board, but I am going to show you guys what I like to do the most. That doesn't mean it's correct, that just means it's what I have found works the best. And if you guys want, I will go ahead and make you one of my famous fully must-know combo videos, but in order to do that, we got to get this video to 100 likes, so go ahead and smash that like button. If we get those 100 likes, I will make a must-know combo tutorial for the new build of Spright, but let's show you guys the combo. So we are going to start it off by normal summoning out our copy of Swap Frog. This is, of course, going to allow us to send a water from the deck to the grave. The one that we are going to send is going to be the Mirror Mage, which, as mentioned, will activate the Mirror Mage effect, allowing us to search for an Ice Barrier spell. That is going to allow us to add the Freezing Chains from our deck to our hand. Now that we have the Freezing Chains, we can go ahead and activate it. This is, of course, going to allow us to reborn an Ice Barrier monster. We can go ahead and reborn out the Mirror Mage. And now that we have 2 level 2 Aquas on field, we can go ahead and just flat out overlay those into a Toad, meaning that we have an Omni Negate on our 3rd summon. Now that we have our Omni Negate, we are free to just play the rest of our turn relatively safely. We can go ahead and special summon out the Spright Blue because we control a rank 2, and of course this activates the Spright Blue effect, allowing us to add a Spright monster. We are going to go ahead and add our Spright Jet. We can go ahead and special summon out the Jet, which will again, of course, activate its on-summon effect of searching out our copy of Double Cross. We'll go ahead and hold that for later. Now what we can do is, using the Blue and the Jet, we will go ahead and link those off into our copy of Sprind, activating the effect of Sprind to send a level 2 from our deck to the graveyard. Of course, this means we are going to go ahead and send our Angler. Angler will go ahead and hit the graveyard, which will activate its effect of when it's sent from hand or deck to graveyard, summoning out 2 Nimble monsters. That that is going to put 2 copies of Nimble Beaver on our side of the field. Now this is where you can branch off. You can go into something like Gigantic Spright and summon a red or a carrot for an additional type of negate. You can go into something like IP, that way you have additional ways of just having more interruptions with like SP or anything like that. What I really like to do here is go ahead and overlay both into our copy of Melfi of the Forest. Now, this does a couple of things for us. Not only will the Melfi allow us to bridge into a 3rd Omni Negate, because we will be able to reborn one of our 2, equaling 3 total, but it also gives us additional Xyz monsters to then use the Spright Sprint effect, because if we're forced to use the Toad before the Sprint, then we wouldn't typically have like a XYZ on field to detach off of for the Sprint's bounce effect. But it also allows us to preserve resources. So now we do still have both of our Gigantics live in the deck, meaning that if we're forced into a weird grind game, we're never going to lose out on those resources because we have those easily available to us. So we're going to go ahead and activate the effect of Melfi of the Forest. This is of course going to allow us to add our copy of Melfi Caddy, and then what we can do is set our copy of Spright Double Cross and proceed to our end phase. In the end phase, the Caddy is going to go ahead and summon itself, and that is going to be our end board. So now what do we have for our opponent? So we've got quite a few things that we can do. Everything you're seeing from this point on is happening during the opponent's turn. Obviously we have a Toad negate and we have a Sprint bounce, but there are some other things we have as well. We can go ahead and use Toad to summon a Swap Frog from the deck, which it's a little bit iffy. It gives you something to send other than the Toad if you want to keep your Toad on field. So like during standby, you can go ahead and detach, and I didn't stack this, but we're going to go ahead and throw a Swap Frog on the field. So now that is standby phase. We go ahead, we have our additional frog as well. Now when our opponent summons, we can go ahead and use the Caddy effect. Caddy is of course going to then add us our copy of Penny, and then we can go ahead and summon out the Penny and use Penny to quick sync using itself and the Caddy in hand. This is going to go into our copy of Herald. So now we have 2 live negates as well as a bounce by detaching off of the Melfi. Here we can go ahead and let's say we're forced to use the Toad first. We're going to go ahead and negate with the Toad. That will of course then activate our Toad effect, which will get us guaranteed follow-up on the next turn by adding back one of our Beavers, because Beaver can go ahead and summon any of our Nimbles from Graveyard. So we will have our Nimble Angler and then our Nimble Beaver again once we use the bounce. But so that was one negate, and then we want to go ahead and reborn it, activating the Double Cross to go ahead and summon back out the Toad. Now, the reason this is cool is because Toad can send the Swap Frog for our other negate, leaving it on field as a 2200 beater. So go ahead, use the 3rd negate, send the Swap Frog. Now you've negated 2 cards. We can go ahead and use the 3rd negate, which will go ahead and get rid of our Herald of Arclight. We can go ahead and bounce something that our opponent summons with the Spright Sprint, and we still have 4 cards in our hand, because it was a 2-card combo, leaving us at 3, but we replenished 1 as guaranteed follow-up, so those could be hand traps, it could be more follow-up, but playing through 3 Omni Negates and a bounce, 4 interruptions into your opponent's 6-card hand, those last 2 cards better be something really good. So yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for the combo. And there you guys have it. That is going to be the updated post-Terminal Revenge Spright deck profile and combo tutorial. As I mentioned, if we can get this to 100 likes, I will make a fully dedicated must-know combo tutorial for this build of Spright. There are so many different combos that you can do, and I would love to show you guys them, so make sure you go ahead and smash that like button. That will be the way to let me know you guys want that. You guys know the deal. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, and as always, never forget to check out the channel sponsor Dueling Guard. Using my code Insane18 or the link in the description down below, you can get 5% off your entire order, which not only gets you some incredible accessories, but also helps support the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.